Welcome to Mitchell Elf. Our theme this year is Adaptations, and this unit is Beaks, Feet, and Feathers. And this is Center 4, Bird Search Outside or Make a Bird Inside. This is the Outdoor and Art Center combined, so you could probably only have time to pick one or the other unless you don't find a lot of birds. So both activities are equally good and important. For the bird search, your objective is to look for birds outdoors and to notice their special adaptations. So if weather permits, you're going to take the kids outside and take them on a walk to look for birds. If your volunteers that do this center can provide binoculars, if you'd like to, that would help kids be able to actually look at and identify birds. And you can use these bird search cards that we have, that if you open them up, all different kinds of birds in them. And there's on its way a bird guide book, or if you want to bring one from home, you sure can. And using these cards and the bird guide books, you can ask the students to describe what they see. You may want to look around for lots of birds and try to see how many different kinds you can find, or you may want to just focus your observations on one bird and try to think about what, you get the kids to look at what kind of beak does it have, what kind of feet does it have. And to that end, we have these bird search cards and dry erase markers. And so older students can have each have their own or pair up. Younger students, you probably want to just take one out as the volunteer and go through and make observations, maybe draw pictures of what you see. So the bird search cards have items on them like what is the size of the bird? Is it bigger or smaller than a robin? Is it bigger or smaller than a chicken? Describe the color and the pattern of its feathers, the shape of its wings and tail, and which way it was flying. The shape of its beak, is it doing anything with its beak? If you happen to be lucky enough to spot a woodpecker, you might have a really great discussion with that. And then the size and shape of its feet, is it using its feet when it's eating? Probably going to be hard to observe that here in Colorado, at least around Mitchell. And then lastly, can you identify the bird? And that's again where you'll use these bird identification pamphlets. So there's enough of these bird search cards that you can either give kids their own or divide them up and go out birding and see what you can find. When you wrap up the observation, you might review and observe the birds that you saw and try to focus the discussion specifically on the different adaptations you observed for each bird. So hopefully you'll get to see a couple different ones and make some really keen observations. Alternative 2, if you decide to stay inside, is make a bird. And the objective of the make a bird activity is to design a real or an imaginary bird that has adapted its feet and beak for a particular way of survival. So on the outline it says if the weather is inclement, you choose not to go outside for other reasons, you can choose this creative art center in which students put together bird parts that correspond with adaptations described on a card. So there are blue cards, and like this one says, you crack seeds with your beak and you attract a mate with your beautiful tail. So if I was going to draw or create that bird, I might create something that looks like this. Well, how do you do that? Well, what you'll do is ahead of time you'll need to check in and see how many copies of these different bird parts, the bodies, the heads, the beaks, and the feet, that already exist, because we're going to try and not use up too many trees with this activity. So every bird has the same body. The body forms are used for all the birds. And then depending on what your description is, you pick a head and a beak that goes with it, and then you pick some feet that go with that. And so The fact that this says you crack seeds with your beak means you need a pretty thick beak, and you attract your mate with a beautiful tail. There's also one of these that has tails on it. I didn't lay that out. Sorry about that. And so the fact that you crack seeds probably means your feet have to dig around to look for seeds, maybe. And then you go looking and add a beautiful tail. So this all got added. Here's the body in here. And then you add the head and you add the beak. And so each of these parts gets cut out and pasted, glued onto a piece of construction paper. The construction paper is in the bin. The originals for the Build a Bird kit are in the bin, and with the PTA copy code, and we're asking that you only make 25 at a time at most, and if you need a couple extra bodies, then maybe take a couple of these and double up and make some extra bodies. But there should be enough, since, for instance, on this sheet that's got one body, it has 4 heads. So do your copying wisely. And then the students can create birds that match these different cards. Like here's one that says, you sip nectar from flowers with your beak, and you have brilliant feathers so other birds can see you. So you'll try to get the kids to color in the birds the way that the description is. But they can be creative, they can be inventive and imaginative. The ones that I did as examples here are all somewhat realistic, but definitely, especially with the younger kids, don't have to be all that realistic at all. They're just trying to get some of the information from these cards so they can kind of have a hands-on transfer of why the beaks and the feet and the feathers all are different. Let's see what else I need to remind you of. On the back, you can have students write what their adaptation is. So whatever was on this card, you could have students write on the back. That's again probably only for the older kids. Make sure those kids write their name on the back of their bird they created, and then they can put it in the Friday folder bin to take home in their teacher's classroom, or you can have them take it home that day. That's up to you and the classroom teacher. Lastly, especially for the younger grades, but this could be totally applied to all of them, it might be really helpful to cut out several bird parts and body forms ahead of time. And this, if you have extra bird parts, you can put them back in the envelope. So we have an envelope with originals, an envelope with extra bird parts. Hit check here before you cut out more bird parts. So it's a pretty fun center with a choice to do a creative craft activity, getting the kids to think about the adaptations that birds make, or an outdoor observation activity. And again, if you do this one, you might want to see if some of the volunteers in your group would like to bring in binoculars so the kids can really observe birds. If you have any questions, you can email us at mitchellelf@gmail.com, and have fun.